This should be a pretty short film reviewing some critical dimension issues and otherwise starting to build the interior floor plan, and then toward the end asking some questions about the exterior treatments. So it's a fairly short film, but some of these things are fairly critical as well. So picking up from the last film, apparently, with these room boxes designating your drawn plan, and there was discrepancies already as I talked about in that film with regard to this wall. So I'm not sure even at this point how relevant some of this film is. But in any event, here is what I found when I began to try to plug this portion of your plan into what I've drawn so far. This portion here, actually, of your plan into what I've drawn so far. And when I do that, and these become the model labels, so we have something to reference. When I do that, I have, probably 36'5" from the interior of this wall to the interior of that wall. And I'll try not to belabor this point too much. But so there's your plan underneath, and the existing walls right now, as I've drawn them, and some of that's a guess, but the existing walls as I've drawn them, and then putting in some of your more critical walls just based on this scaled overlay of your plan. And you can see where your toilet is lining up here, and apparently you have the window placed here. So one or the other of these dimensions is wrong. Yeah, so that would be where you have the window right there, and I'm showing that. So I'm showing a 21-inch discrepancy. And this plan can probably still be built regardless of what happens, but I didn't explore that further because I was curious about that discrepancy in the first place. I went back to this existing, and I have that window there on this existing as-drawn plan built from the brick coursing and so forth there, and it's 1'9" off from your plan. Yeah, 1'9" off. So I put in these dimensions. This is what I apparently had drawn so far, have so far on the plans. And I went back and counted this brick coursing over, and started to adjust these based on counting that brick coursing over. And actually, when I counted the brick coursing over, based on 8.36 per brick, 8.36, including the mortar per brick, if I use that, I end up there, which is off from what I thought, but still is off from 7 inches of what you're showing if that brick coursing is correct. And all of this can be cleared up as soon as I take some more dimensions out there. And then I went on and did this window and all the way to the end. And at the end, when I got to the end, I said, okay, so it's 649.3, and I knew how many courses of brick that was. 60 or 80 or whatever it was across here. I was able to count from the photographs. And I divided that by that number and used that as my brick coursing dimension. And I think that was 8.5 inches per course. And so then I adjusted all those windows and everything to that 8.5 inches per course. And that would still put us 13 inches off from your plan. So you can probably take these dimensions, or the next time I'm in town, which I don't expect will probably be for at least another week or so. But just to clear that up, this is 5 or 8 dimensions across here, just taken in inches that could clear that up. And I recognize that some of these windows are going away anyway, but I think it's important, well, I know it's important we start from something true. So assuming that was correct, assuming that red window was correct, I began to build a plan from that. And remember, this red window now is based on that, on these dimensions that you're seeing here. It's not shown, it's actually not shown here, but it's based on that 8.5 inches per course of brick. And I can go back and look at this one. I think this was 60 courses from here to this end. But in any event, I began to see if I could build your plan from that and see how that would work out. And first of all, I moved that master bedroom wall back so that you get a night. I mean, 1'6" is 3 inches over code minimum, so it's still a 3-foot wide room in there. And then I have 3'2" between these, because this wall I have just on top of what you've drawn down here. And this plan can still be built if that's the case there. So we need to clear that much up in any event. And then I started to build this top part based on your drawn plan. And it's like that. I just named this little area in here the vestibule. And put in the rest of these walls, and it all looks, it's going to work out just fine. And then going to the top of this plan for this portion of this, or this film, going to the top of this plan and building that out. And I assume this is the new front porch here. And I guess I'm assuming that those sidewalks, that sidewalk there just goes away. And this becomes your main entry point from the driveway as far as flow goes. So kind of using your plan, it looks like, because remember this wall already exists, as does the plane of this one, and that has been confirmed, so you end up with 21'5" interior dimension. And then I put in that other window. And outside, I think this is an improvement over that. So we're heading in the right direction. There's still a lot to go, obviously. But the other things I want to talk about, we're going to be changing. First of all, you indicated the windows are to be black. So does that mean that every window in the house will be changed out and will be new and will be black? And if that's the case, clarify that. And regardless of that, is there already a brand in mind that will be used so that I can build from that? Secondly, in going to the board and batten siding, then this becomes a different kind of, so this is a colonial kind of style house. All of these parts, the moldings and the trim and so forth. And so, but when we go to a board and batten type thing, we become a different kind of style. And so I assume that all of these moldings, all of this curved molding will go away and become replaced with square stock, more or less. And then the columns, those could go in a number of different directions that we can toy around with based upon ideas you might send over that you like, or whatever I would put together. But those could be, heading in a kind of a craftsman style direction if you wanted to. But in any event, where some of these, sometimes with column builds, they might have 3 small columns instead of 1 large one. So there's a number of things to consider, because as I recall, there's some more columns over here when this thing is put together over here. But continuing with the siding discussion for just one little bit, there are also different styles, and I'm not really thinking on these main roof planes down here, but on these dormers up here, I would be inclined, and presumably this whole roof is getting removed and redone, and I would be inclined up here, and all this is taken apart and redone. This is taken all the way down to the sheeting, but I would be inclined to stretch these roof planes out, particularly since they don't make gutters anyway, and I would be having those come down further on the sides to add a little dimension to that. And there's just a number of things that can obviously be done. But this was just a start, and those were the, I know the final, or one of the main things is this is this existing thing here, and then when the new one comes out, I showed this all in brick wall here. Now, is all of this actually going to be in siding, including, the section that is currently in brick here? Is that just going to be removed and done in siding? And if that's done, well, it's just something to consider. If that's done, we're going to have this foundation that's existing under here, and that's not going to go away. That's a basement foundation wall. And so we have to think about that interior and exterior alignment. And maybe this new wall is just built with 2x6s out here, to keep to keep this all in one plane. In any event, if you can kind of lend some guidance on that. I know this brick that's not being disturbed is obviously just going to be painted. And with regard to that, painting this other brick here, this can actually be that similar brick that your son is using at the Collier's project, where it's just thin brick that's adhered to something. And I don't think you still want to move the plane of these walls any, but I would be inclined to just... This one could move back so that a painted brick, a thin brick veneer, would have the correct alignment over that existing foundation below. This one here, to move that back, would probably not be that great an endeavor either, but that ought to be sorted eventually. But yeah, this can be the painted brick veneer, all this new brick here. So either this is that board and batten, or it's painted brick veneer to look like these. And I will be showing that as we go forward, because right now I just showed you that elevation of the brick veneer, and maybe that's a lot of brick coming out there, but maybe it's a lot of siding too, and maybe the solution is a combination, particularly since we have this wall thickness, this 10.5-inch wall thickness to technically work with. Take advantage of that, and maybe this is put in two pieces where it's painted brick veneer in the lower portion and then vertical siding, board and batten siding above that. So that was just a mid-film interjection. And I think that's it for now. I just wanted to update you before we get too far along. And I'll be just continuing to do this, build this as I go here. But once you update me with your ideas, the next film will probably contain some of those ideas. So that's it for now. Thanks very much.